Hey guys, what's up? It's Sean, Autotopia LA. Remember, we got a lot of merch happening nowadays, but we don't order a ton. It sells out fast, so atlamerch.com if you want to buy any of the things that you see me wearing on the channel. So we've shot multiple times with my friend Rob at RJ Fabrication. A lot of cool off-road stuff. We've shot one of his hot rods. We're about to get it. I mean, this is his swan song. This is his Mona Lisa. This is truly epic what we're gonna get into. I'm gonna bring in Rob and we're gonna talk all about this.
What up, buddy?
Is that a good enough intro for you?
That's great, dude. Heck yeah, man, thank you.
I think about how many times we've been up here in the last 4 years that this has been under build, right? And
oh yeah.
You know, to have seen it the first time, like actually come together and be at SEMA last year.
Yeah.
You guys win your category. You're in the Battle of the Builders top 4.
Rob Lindsay and his 1949 Willys pickup.
The experience was humbling and incredible, and just I don't know, it's hard to put it into words. Like, it was just an amazing experience. So proud of my guys, like my team. They're the guys turning all the wheels and making it all happen.
Yeah, dude.
It's just an incredible experience all the way through.
You've been building extraordinary stuff for a long time, but the Swan Song Mona Lisa reference is simply that you had an owner that kind of was like, just go. Like,
yeah.
All right, we're gonna this and this and this, and it's gonna cost like nice house money.
Yeah, we didn't discuss numbers. He said, hey, it has to resemble a 49 Willys pickup when you're done with it. And just, I want you to be enthused about the build the whole way through. Those are the two criteria I really would like you to meet. Took me a while to figure out why he wanted me to be enthused the whole way through. And then I realized later on, if they're enthused about it, or if I'm enthused about the build, they're just gonna get a better product at the end of the day. Really smart businessman. This experience has just been fantastic the whole way through. It's just been a great experience.
Can we pop the hood and start with the mechanicals of what the motor?
Yeah, no, that's a great place to start. One thing you gotta keep in mind before I open the hood here is packaging was the biggest issue on this. It's actually a very small vehicle.
Like
so
really
you're gonna see this thing is packed in here. And to have it function and have some sort of ease of maintenance, you know what I mean? To be able to maintain this thing
I can only imagine, Rob, because this is a tiny area.
And I'll point out while we're right here, normally the hood goes on the grill and just sits on top of it. So we welded the grill to the hood and then cut the grill down so that the grill is part of the hood itself.
Jeez, it is such a tiny area.
It's just tiny,
It's such a tiny area to deal with.
So we have a 422-inch LS3 with the Frankenstein, I think they're MB710 cylinder heads, 2.9 Whipple supercharger, and the tune right now, we can go more, we can boost more, but with 8 pounds of boost right now, we're making 930 horsepower.
I didn't know it was
With eight pound, yeah.
And you could easily push it more and get up well over 1,000. Probably.
Yeah, and we'll probably play with that in the future. We have a flex fuel sensor on it as well, so we can run E85 and have more boost and keep the timing up a little bit. It senses the amount of E85 that's in the fuel system, so it can adjust boost accordingly.
And then what do you mate to transmission and rear end on it?
So the transmission is from my good buddy Chris Gardner at Maximum Transmissions. It's a 4L80 with all billet internals, billet input shaft, output shaft, you know, billet drums, like, you know. We didn't do the reed case on this one, the SFI reed case, only because we wanted to retain the automatic shifting features.
Instead of it being a manual.
Yeah, and the reed case actually won't allow that. It would just be straight full manual, which in a race application is perfect. But in this one's paddle shifted by Powertrain Solutions, is the company that makes the mechanical. It makes the whole paddle shift kit, but it makes it shift mechanically also. It doesn't just electronically shift it with the paddle. It actually moves the transmission shift lever.
So your paddles are probably more articulate as far as
Well, you don't feel it in the paddle, but the delay, maybe in a hardcore race application, a professional race driver might notice the delay, but you know, an average driver like me, I don't notice it.
Average driver like you. Yeah, I've been in the truck with you.
Well, yeah.
I've been in the truck with you. What the fuck did I get myself in now? Holy shit.
Then we go to a TubeWorks chromoly 4-inch housing. So it's 4-inch diameter tubes, 250 thou wall thickness. And then the whole thing's heat treated.
Beefy.
It's gnarly. 36 spline TT axles, Evan Weller rear diff. We have a 543 ratio in this one. And then same thing on the front, Evan Weller narrowed 9-inch diff in the front, 543 gear ratio in the front.
And at some point, I know right now you were saying you're running in a 2-wheel drive configuration, still dealing with.
Correct.
And just so any of you guys know and wonder, this is still in shakedown. There's still small things to dial, like you were talking about the drive shaft,
5 miles,
right?
Yep. You know, transparency is key. Let's get into the reason why we don't have four-wheel drive right now, and kind of what the things that you go through as a builder. Like, we had it at SEMA done and completely together, but the first time I ever actually drove it, not in my own driveway, was driving it to the trailer in SEMA. SEMA's a shit show to get out of there. That's sometimes.
For sure. Yeah,
for sure. We parked the trailer a few blocks away, and that's the first time I drove it. That's when I noticed the steering isn't correct. And then we were slinging some grease on the CV boots. And so we have Porsche 934 race prep CVs, radius cages, everything, 300M material, chromoly material. But the CV angle, not the wheel travel, but the steer part of the application, it was pushing the boot in a manner, no matter how tight we clamped it, it was slinging some grease out of there. So RCV is machining us a special adapter CV piece so that we can have one of their boots on it, and then that should solve that problem. So that's why the axles are out of it right now.
Yeah.
But the four-wheel drive works good. Like, we ran it up and down the driveway, four-wheel drive, everything's good, our ratios are perfect, everything's correct. One thing I forgot to mention too is it has an Atlas transfer case on it. So we have a 1:5 ratio Atlas transfer case in it, so we do have high-low. Some of the engine packaging issues that we're dealing with here is, we have the LS, the supercharged LS in here, but you need to work on it. You need to be able to maintain things like, change spark plugs, do things like that. So everything in here is on a dry brake. So right here, and these little RJ Fab class pieces, they actually come down. There's two little Heim joints, left and right Heim. So this works like a turnbuckle. That clamps those radiators down. So there's two intercooler radiators right here for the supercharger. We have those two coolers. We have the AC condenser in the front. All of our air goes into this, and there's an air filter under this area right here. All these components come off, and there's dry brakes on everything. If you need to pull one of these intercooler radiators out, you just twist the dry brakes off and the whole assembly comes out, doesn't leak fluid, doesn't introduce air into the system. And that's how we made this thing so that you could somewhat maintain it and work on it without it being a big, giant, gnarly headache. So
yeah, the whole time I've been looking at this going, serviceability must be a friggin' nightmare.
And it's key, you have to build serviceability in this thing. When you're, having this type of a build done, you want to be able to service it without trying to seek out the engineer and get a hit on the guy.
Even like here, like this is this for?
So that tank is intercooler. This is the power steering reservoir. We even had to make the fill tube, and our fill tube is on a Wiggins fitting. So Wiggins fittings were designed in aerospace, and it's basically two ferrules that you weld on the end of two tubes. You could do an aluminum tube or stainless steel. And they have O-rings on them, and then there's a sleeve that goes over those two O-rings. So when you put it together, you slide the sleeve over. That seals it, and then the clamp goes over it, and that keeps it from being able to come apart. But it can move, it can wiggle around a little bit. I think they were ultimately designed for air transfer, but it works exceptionally well for fluid transfer. So I think we only have one hose clamp on the cooling system.
Wow.
Like all the fluid transfer lines are connected by Wiggins clamps. So, DC Power Engineering, 200 amp idle alternator. So at 1,000 RPM, basically it's already putting out 200 amps if necessary. So that's kind of cool. We're fitting even the reservoirs for the shocks are in back here. Yeah. You can't even see it, but that air vent right here that actually goes up. Remember the old trucks in the 30s and 40s had that air vent, you get fresh air?
Yes.
So we have push buttons on that, and that opens up, and that's how you fill the reservoirs for the brake system. So just because we're trying to make room for stuff, and we weren't going to use that fresh air.
I can see the reservoirs under there.
And instead of we easily could have blended this thing out right here and just smoothed it out, but ultimately, let's leave it because it's cool. But we did have to cut the body right here. So this piece comes out to get the engine out. There's no other way. But we have intake scoops for days. So this intake scoop right here is for the engine oil cooler.
And then there's another one here.
There's another one, that's the power steering cooler. And then there's scoops right here for the intercoolers. So this area right here.
Oh, come on. God, you guys just went bonkers on this.
And then we wind tunnel tested that to the poor man's wind tunnel test. We taped ribbons everywhere, yarn, everywhere throughout. Because this thing takes cooling and it goes all the way under the chassis and comes up into the radiator and transmission coolers. But we actually taped yarn in there. We actually put it on the back of our 40-foot trailer and towed it at 60 miles an hour, hoping we were far enough away from the truck to get some fresh, clean air in there.
Right.
We did that. We bought a smoke machine and did smoke. Like we had GoPros clamped in here just to try to, see what the yarn.
Dude, I love that you went this deep into it.
You have to, because I don't want any cooling issues with this thing. Sure enough, we found there's like a little divider. I'm not sure if you guys can capture it. There's a little divider in here. Without that divider, it was actually swirling in that area and coming back out and not actually allowing it to flow through and we wouldn't have found that had we not done all that testing.
Let's go wheels, tires, what are the brakes? even exhaust. And where is your exhaust on this?
Well, the exhaust exits out the back of the cab.
Oh, there it is.
The cab right here. So headers, long tube, like 34-inch long, 1.75-inch headers is what was required for this engine. Merged collector. We got MagnaFlow round bullet mufflers on this thing, and then 3-inch exhaust. But it's a pretty short exhaust system. You figure the header collector's right here, and the end of the exhaust is here. So it's surprisingly quiet when it's idling. It's not terribly loud, but when you're on it, it barks hard. Like
that's what I'm curious to hear, because I've only heard it so far at idle, and like when you pulled in earlier, you gave it a quick little blip.
Chill when it's idling, but when you mash it, it's loud.
It gets
loud, yeah. So.
And then wheel, tire, and brake setup?
We have 40-inch BFG, 40, 12, 12, 5, 17, and then we have Innovate 17-inch forged beadlock wheels. Brakes are JMR, 14-inch rotor, big 6-piston calipers on all 4 corners. So same brakes on all 4 corners.
Is JMR a go-to in your world of off-road?
JMR is like really geared towards the trophy truck, high-end luxury pre-runner type stuff. So.
Yeah. This is full pre-runner capable, like what you did with me in that, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like it's not just pretty.
This will actually probably destroy that.
Outperform
Yeah, outperform it. You know, this has more tech on it, and you know,
more
we've
power.
learned more stuff, more power, you know, than that has. So
yeah. And I gotta imagine this is probably lighter, or no?
They're very similar in weight, actually.
They are.
Yeah, this thing's 6,400, that one's 6,600. So the weight that we try to achieve is hard to do because, you know, we want 60% in the rear, but we have a transfer case in our transmission, so we can't push the engine back terribly far because our drive shaft gets so short. With 30 inches of wheel travel, you get too much angularity on the U-joints. You can't have that short of a drive shaft and have 30 inches of wheel travel in the rear. So,
and that's what this thing has, is 30?
That's 30 in the rear, yeah.
Oh
yeah, it has 22 steerable inches of wheel travel in the front and 30 inches of travel in the rear. Yeah.
Wow. We got to talk through suspension, at least at some level, before we go in.
We'll put it on the lift and we'll go over it in more detail. But yeah, so we have a 4-link in the rear. You know, our trailing arms and our upper links, fully adjustable upper links, fully adjustable trailing arms.
When you say our trailing arms, it's actually your design.
Yeah,
you guys.
Our design. Yes.
Now it's your design, and then you have somebody produce those. You don't produce those.
No,
in-house?
we make them. We build them in-house.
You do make them in-house.
Yeah, we make pretty much every piece in-house. We don't have 5-axis CNC machines, so there's certain components on here that are machined that we don't do here in-house. Ameribraid does that for us.
But all like the trailing arms, the control arms and stuff, is that you guys as well?
No, so we have that in CAD. We can build this type, but this front bulkhead, upper and lower control arm assembly is from Igor at Triton Engineering. Okay. This front end is the same front end that Lauren Healy runs. He's a championship winning, you know, rock racer. So,
I mean, I don't follow that stuff, and I even know his
name. All King of the Hammers type stuff, you know, same thing that he runs on his Jeeps in King of the Hammers. So it's a proven front end, and it gave us a massive head start. Like when we started on this chassis, we already knew that works exceptionally well. And ultimately what we were setting out to build was the world's first luxury Ultra 4 car. It gave us a massive head start to just fixture this up and fixture our chassis up on the chassis table and just start going to town instead of designing our own Ultra 4 style front suspension. It's already out there. It's proven. It's all heat treated. Like
totally get it, dude.
And I laugh because when I first posted this thing, there were so many guys like, "Oh, IFS sucks. You're gonna break that." Maybe watch Lauren Healy jump off cliffs. And,
and we'll show more of that when we go.
Yeah, we'll get into it once we get under it. We can really kind of take a good look at it.
Let's shift over here to this. All back here is you guys working in fuel cell, cooling, obviously spare, a trunk. Why don't you walk us through all of that? Not to mention, I know these lights aren't designed only to point in that direction. So let's walk through kind of all the mechanical.
We'll get into all this stuff. Dude. Yeah, this rear wing exit thing is actually, you know, quite a functional piece. So we have transmission coolers, which are horizontal in here, and then we have the radiator up front, which is you know, at about a 45-degree angle. So all the hot air from the radiator exits out this top scoop area. Down in here where the trans coolers and the batteries are, all that hot air from the trans coolers exits out of this area. And the reason we did that is I didn't want any of the hot air from the radiator soaking the trans coolers behind it. So now all that air has to exit past all that stuff instead of rolling on the backside. Because if you were able to see what the wind's doing, usually behind the cab of a truck, it rolls like this right here. And so I didn't want to take that hot air and push it onto the transmission cooler. So I wanted all that separate. Each cooling system in this vehicle has its own separate ducting that comes all the way out the back and exits the back of the vehicle. So
Where's your fuel cell? Is it integrated in here?
No, the fuel cell we have in this thing is in this area right here, and we have fillers on both sides, so you can fill from both sides of the vehicles. So here's
both feed down to just one.
Yep, just to one. I'll show you where that comes in together. But this is one of the Wiggins clamps that I was talking about.
And it stays loose like that.
Yeah, it stays loose because it can rotate around, but this is how you undo it. It's really this simple. So basically you have a ferrule on each tube welded, you have an O-ring on it, and then you slide this sleeve over that, over the O-rings. And that's what seals it. But what keeps it from coming apart is this clamp. And if you're ever concerned, if you have the sleeve over the O-rings correctly and over the ferrules correctly, if this part can go on like this, it can't leak. This clamp is what keeps that ferrule from sliding off the O-rings. And this is the stuff that drives the cost up. You know, this whole connection right here is probably $300. Instead of just running round tube throughout the whole chassis, we started a few years ago, started doing bulkhead stuff where we actually have two plates and then we shape those pieces on the inside and we TIG weld all that together. It's stronger and it's just aesthetically super cool, but we didn't want to lose the depth of this. And so normally we would cover this with an aluminum panel. Well, we decided on this one, let's push these panels in and then actually we show the depth of that part of the chassis. It's just kind of a cool thing to do that makes it look good.
I love that you did that. And the other thing that I'm kind of, I heard half of what you said because I can't help but look at the welds.
Well, it's imperative to us to have the best looking welds that you can have. Like it's just
obvious, Rob.
Yeah, we try really hard and we have just extremely talented guys working for us.
The welds are just like, I can't, okay, keep going, never mind. Because I'm gonna fall short trying to explain how good that is.
Let me show you the tailgate and the trunk deal, because we can get into some of the fuel cell stuff. There is right here a button. There we go. Now it exposes the fuel cell. So we have two A1000 pumps, fuel level sending unit, a bunch more Wiggins clamps and fittings, 2 fuel filters, and that way you can service this stuff easier. It's just right here.
God, it's right there.
But this thing is actually sealed off pretty well, so it keeps a bunch of dust and dirt and junk out of it.
How many gallons is this?
50. I would love to have 100 gallons in this.
Yeah,
we just can't fit.
You don't have the space
I needed
for it.
some sort of a trunk area. We could have filled this whole area, but I needed some sort of small trunk area.
Yeah.
And I know we're not getting into body stuff terribly much, but the tailgate, since we're right here, same situation. You can operate all this stuff in the cab. It also has mechanical backups, has cables on all this stuff in case you got a dead battery and you can't open anything up, but we also have...
You didn't pull a punch anywhere on
no,
this thing.
we really tried to see it all the way through with just super cool stuff.
Yeah.
But these are C6 Corvette latches, 2 of them here and 2 of them here that hold all this stuff together. Yeah, my Denali tailgate isn't as stout as this tailgate. Like this doesn't even rattle at all. And then we decided we wanted a roll out drawer.
Dude, come on.
And the reason we did that too is because this is a single panel tailgate. So if you drop something on this, you'll see the dent on the other side. So this helps protect the tailgate a little bit if you're doing something. This is the jack pad, just comes out with this quick release pin and pins onto the actual jack itself. And then you just need the impact to change the tire. It uses a 1-inch socket. So this is 1 inch, the spare tire piece is 1 inch, the lug nuts are 1 inch. So you just need that one tool we'll get to that later. It's stowed in the door.
I know that
to
tool.
change a tire.
I know that tool.
And then the other thing we thought of, you know, because this drawer locks open and it locks closed with this little handle. But we got to thinking, well, if you're bouncing around and it goes like this and it opens up, now this is rubbing on the tailgate, jacking stuff up. So the billet Overland Willys symbol, we actually incorporated on the bolts on that. This thing goes up over here and it allows for this, once this thing's closed, this handle can't go up. So it stays locked in position.
The amount of thought you guys put into this, and I know you're not the only one, right? I know other people do.
I cannot take credit for all. My guys are just, we're coming in the mornings, we're like, dude, guess what I thought about last night? And we feed off of each other, and that's what makes it fun.
That's so sick that you work it into this. It doesn't look off when you popped. I didn't even fucking notice it until you just showed what its purpose is, you know?
And that's the design language that I'm talking about. We like things to kind of flow and look like the whole thing was built by one person, not several different types of ideas. So, you know, we're trying to get everybody on the same page when it comes to design language. So this billet Overland Willys symbol that Ameribraid made for us, the whole reason that's on there is the client said, I know this year, make, and model didn't have that. It's normally stamped in the tailgate like these pieces are right here. He bought this thing when he was, I think, 15 off of his grandpa. His grandpa, I think, bought it new. And he said, just as my childhood memories, it had it in the tailgate, but I know it actually didn't. But in my memories, it did. I just thought it did. We just didn't even say anything. We just like, ding, all right, we're gonna put one in there. And so we actually laser cut a flat one and we're gonna bolt it on. And we're like, So then we said, okay, let's just take it to the next level. Let's make a billet one. Nobody has a billet one. And then that way it bolts on.
You must have loved that.
Dude, he's just like, are you kidding me? And we have a bunch of Easter eggs like that on this vehicle, and we'll go over them as we go through it. So.
Okay, so now that you guys are in complete overwhelm, it's about to get worse. Let's start back up at the front.
Okay.
And make our way back.
Go over the body.
Because I know this much. This was a flat panel of metal and now it's a bed.
Yeah.
So let's do that through the whole back of the car.
Let's do that, yeah.
Because you really did start with a bone stock original 49 Willys.
Yeah, we had it as on the stock chassis, a full roller, had a small block Chevy in it, didn't run.
Okay.
It was a kind of a complete truck. I think the bed was just loosely strapped to the chassis in the back. You know, we went to town on the mods, and we'll get into the gnarliest mod, but we'll start, which is in the midsection, but we'll start at the front. Like I had mentioned earlier, so one of the things I didn't want to have is I didn't want to have the hood extended over the grill like it did from the factory and just have it flopping on there and just jacking the paint up, and you know, it's just annoying. So we decided to weld the grill and the hood together. And you could see a little edge, but that's because we have this whole thing PPF wrapped. Normally, the paint looks even better when it's not PPF wrapped, but you can see there's a little edge.
But when you say you welded the grill to the hood, is this the actual grill?
That's the actual grill, and it was probably a solid 5 inches longer. We actually split it in the middle, sectioned it, and brought it up so that all this section of the bulkhead for the upper control arms, two things can't share the same space. So we needed to raise the grill up above all that. And in doing that, one of the other things that came into play was, okay, so what do we do about the headlights? Normally the headlights are set in, so now half the headlight had to be split and go up with the grill. So I'll show you how I mean, it sounds simple. We have tons of hours into it, but you could see how half the headlight goes up and the bezel goes up with the hood itself.
Oh my God, just to get that to line up has got to be...
Yeah, it was fun, yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, all this is just, you know, we had to hand form all this stuff right here, this section of the grill, just to get it to flow because all this was way down here. And then the fenders are hand formed aluminum. So
this is flat panels of metal turned into fenders.
Yep, 3003 aluminum. So this is actually a half tank roll, and all this is welded up, and then we just file it down.
So bizarre.
And we have two sets of fenders for this thing. So 5 bolts removes each fender on each side, 5 bolts per side. The reason we have that is we want it to resemble a 49 Willys.
Yep.
So we wanted to have the flat fenders on it. They all have this front flat fender. We didn't want to lose that. As you can see, if this tire was turned in full bump on suspension, it would tear this fender clean off. So this is street trim. We call this street trim. We have a fender that protects the bottom edge of the hood like this does. Comes in here, wraps bolts on, but it's all the way in line with the hood. We've turned the tire, fully cycled it. We have clearance all the way.
So you lose this much
you
of
lose
the
all
fender
that. Yes,
basically
you lose
to give
all
it
that.
the room for travel.
Yeah, and so he knows these guys love to go to the sand dunes. I don't know how much desert stuff they're gonna do with the truck. I don't know how much rock crawling. It's fully capable of doing all that stuff. But ultimately, it will probably see sand dunes more than anything. And it will compress the suspension all the way off jumps and stuff. So they just know.
Go over to
and
the
they were
others.
super okay with that. I said, Rob, we're super okay that when we go to the dunes, we'll just unbolt those fenders and bolt the other ones on. So, this is still stock, other than, like I said, we actually had to cut this section of the cowl out to be able to get the engine in and out.
This
is still
element
stock.
of the cab is 1949.
This is 1949 Willys pickup. All this, the door is still 1949 Willys pickup.
Yeah.
But as we move farther down, it's not 1949 Willys pickup anymore. So
where does 49 stop?
Here.
I knew it was going.
Yeah. So
if I remember correctly, they didn't make an extended cab. It wasn't an option yet, was it?
I don't think they ever made an extended cab at Willys Jeep that I know of. So one thing about these is they're smaller than a Volkswagen inside. It seems like it's just very tiny. The owner of this is a stud dude, man. He's 6'2" and doesn't fit in this thing very well. And when he bought it and he was 15, he probably didn't care. But as you get older, you're like, hey man, I want to be comfortable. So we decided let's turn it into an extra cab. And we didn't hand make all of this. We handmade some of it. But ultimately, this section is out of a wagon. The back section of a wagon back behind the actual door itself, you know, the passenger and driver door, the window doesn't go down. It's actually just a solid window. So we shrunk that up and welded that in here. And then we actually handmade all the roof pieces. And then Travis at Sylvester's Customs planished all that stuff out for us. All this stuff is hand shaped and planished out. This section is the wagon, but we actually did a couple sections in here. But no, it was a ton of work, but I wanted it to look like if Willys did make an extra cab, this is what it would look like. I didn't want it to be so notable. And so there's so many people that have seen it so far and didn't even realize. They're like, oh yeah, wait, they never did make an extra cab. So
what's this for?
Okay, so we were stumped on this one for a while. The upper link bolt on the chassis is about 8 inches long. 3/4 inch bolt, 8 inches long. So to remove that bolt, it's too long and it hits the body. You wouldn't be able to get the bolt out and you can't go in with it. You won't be able to go in with it. There's other parts of the chassis that are in the way. And I thought to myself one day, I'm like, well, Porsches have that little plug for a jack mount, if I remember correctly.
They do.
And I thought, well, if it's good enough for a Porsche, it's good enough for this thing, you know? So we just made that plug. There's 3 stainless button heads on the backside that hold it together. You pull those out and then this piece comes out and then the bolt can come out.
Now you can access that bolt.
And it's clocked like that. So you can't actually ever get it wrong. It only can go back in one way and you put the 3 fasteners in that hold it. So, and then we had to cove this out for the shock. This is another sliding.
Oh yeah, wow.
That's fully
really,
coved out
oh,
for the shock, you know, because the shock encroaches on the cab area. So 2 things can't occupy the same space, once again.
The amount of thought you guys have to put in measuring and making sure, and wow.
We build the chassis with the cab on it. Then we lift the cab off, we weld the chassis up, we finish everything, and then we put the cab back on, and then you realize right away once you have the shocks on the chassis, okay, that's obviously not gonna fit there. So some of these problems, you know, rear their ugly heads right out of the get-go. Some of them way down the line when you're like, oh
then
man.
They bite you.
Yeah, so it can. Yeah, it can. So let's hit the bed. So the bed sides, we went round and around back because obviously it's not a truck that hauls stuff anymore. You can't have an open bed in it. But we didn't want to lose what the bed actually was on the vehicle. And so the owner and I went over that a few times and he was concerned, you know, I think. He was like, what are we gonna do on the bed? I don't want it to not have a bedside, you know, and we unbolted the stock bedside and we started holding it up and looking at stuff. And I thought, well, I don't wanna bolt it all the way against the chassis because then again, we're gonna hide these bulkheads in here. And so I said, let's stand it off a little bit. I know we have the bump stop coming out and then let's just make it look like a laser came in and just sliced a whole section out where the shocks go. You know, kind of like when, remember in Terminator when that ball thing, just anything that was in its way was just sliced out? So it's similar to that. So we hand formed all these pieces right here and just kind of came up with a mimic of what the bedside looks like with the stake pockets, even though there's not a stake pocket, but this outer stake pocket piece hides the bump stop. And then this piece right here, it's a little bit wider than the factory one, but it has all the exact same shape as the factory. And we have a bunch of electronics are hidden in these.
And then where would you access those from?
So all this stuff just unbolts from the inside. So this actually comes off with Zeus fasteners. This fender comes off with Zeus fasteners, then it exposes hardware that has this whole bedside come off. So you can still, one's exposed right here.
Now I see it, but it's also hidden, dude.
Yeah, we tried to hide everything to the best of our ability. Yeah, so this piece right here, you can undo it here, and this whole piece comes off. This whole assembly comes off. This one, there's a couple hidden up under here, and then you have these, and then this whole bedside just comes right off. Yeah.
Got it. This fitment is bonkers for the shock to fit here, and then again here.
You know, we cut it all out just to clear all this stuff and make all this stuff fit and look like it's supposed to go together. But it was just a cool additional feature that we didn't even plan for, the fact that the stake pocket could cover the bump stop. Once we started doing all this, like how rad would it be that that stake pocket just goes right over the area where the bump stop is.
Just all these cuts are so bitchin', dude. Looking at how it fits, I mean
So a lot of this is our 22-year-old Aiden. I taught him everything I knew about sheet metal. Nick taught him everything he knew about sheet metal. That kid's our best sheet metal guy now. Like he smokes us. Like he's just.
And he's 22 years old.
He's 22 years old.
Holy cow.
Yeah, he's killing it.
One other thing back here that is mechanical that we really haven't touched on.
The light bar?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so on the steering wheel, we have a multitude of buttons here. So 2 of these buttons are the up and down for the light bar. So just hit the up button.
You can pretty much articulate it and point it wherever you want almost.
That's the cool thing
within,
is, as you're driving you can move it and aim it wherever you need it to be. So that's kind of cool. And then another thing, our mechanic, Marty, when we built this light bar and we had these 3 braces on the back, he looked at it one day and he goes, man, he's like, that's the perfect size. You should put some KC Cyclone lights in there and then you can aim those. And I'm like, Marty, great idea. Again, one of those moments where a guy comes in and he just gives his, his thoughts on something and it executes well. We'll turn those lights on for you guys.
There we go. Holy cow, those are bright, dude. Oh, and then it hits the other ones underneath as well.
Yeah, so we have some work lights here too. The point of all the lighting on this is to be able to work on it in the dark and not have a flashlight in your hand. Yeah. Let's say you have a problem. Let's say you run over barbed wire and you wrap it around the axle or something. I don't know.
Dude, I mean, look at the underside of this, how much it like you can literally
That's what I mean. The whole point of it is, if you have an issue in the desert, you got a flat, you want to change a tire, you run something over, you want to check everything out underneath.
Yeah.
We want you to be able to do it without having a flashlight in hand. Obviously you can point the forward-facing lights, but you can point those work lights anywhere you want to point those too, if that helps you out. So
I'm so proud of you guys too for the Battle of the Builders last year. It was so fun as a friend and a fan.
I'm just proud
to
of
be
my
standing
guys,
out there.
Yeah.
There was no way I was not going to stand there and watch you.
I saw you guys out there, but I couldn't interact with you guys. I would have got emotional because it's a big deal for me to be a part of Battle of the Builders.
I was getting emotional from the crowd.
Yeah.
I mean,
Michelle's crying. I'm just like,
oh, I know. I
think it's just after 4 years and the relationships that you develop with the clients and the relationships I have with my guys, and we're just every day just pouring our hearts and souls in this thing. Yeah. There's no way to not get emotional about it. I'm emotional about everything I've ever built, I think, and this one's just extra because it's just the time.
It goes so deep, Rob.
It really does. It really does.
Everything about car builds always trips me out, and I love it. I geek on it because where you spend your time is always on the interior more than anything. Like, I don't spend a lot of time looking under the hood after I've seen it.
This is the office.
Once again with you guys, dude, your attention to detail. I always love how you submerge, so to speak, the cage into the headliner.
Yeah, some we'll do completely on top and completely expose the tube.
Yeah.
This one we wanted to do on the crown of the tube, so we're exposing 50% of the tube. So.
All right, walk us through the whole interior.
Yeah, Sean Smith actually drew a couple renderings for us on this thing.
That's right, I forgot Sean had his hand in this a bit.
Yeah, it's pretty cool because that guy's super talented. So.
Isn't he?
We just decided let's keep it simple and not get super ultra like futuristic shapey, which even these eyebrows might be a little much because it's a 1949 Willys, and so they didn't have those round swoopy shapes. Right. So we stopped it there. I needed an eyebrow over it just to keep some of the light off the Pro Dashes, but I also didn't want it to be SR-71 choppy, stealth fighter looking type stuff. So we just tried to keep the whole interior actually pretty simple. So what we have is an aluminum dash, hand-shaped, welded together, filed down, and then my upholstery guy, Rudy, from Rudy's Custom Upholstery, wraps all of our stuff. So realistically, this thing never went to the upholstery shop. Every piece and panel comes out and gets wrapped, and then we come back and we bolt it in. So when we made all this headliner pieces, we just clearanced. It took a 3/16" gap is what it took for the Alcantara to wrap around it, or actually suede on the headliner. This is suede up here, but
it's all removable by all these.
All those fasteners, we can remove it. So aluminum headliner wrapped, aluminum dash hand built, aluminum center console. The center console, we decided we wanted to do, obviously the transfer case shifter, you got the rear and the front on the T case, turning brake handle. But the other cool thing is this is the shifter mechanism for it. I didn't want an additional handle up here. So we have the ignition, which turns both Holley Pro Dashes on. The iPad is out of a Cessna airplane, so it actually clips into place and charges once it's in its place. But we wanted something rugged and can hold it in position really well. So, but now you can see that this is lit up here for, and so if you just put this thing, you can hear it shift the lever that I was talking about with the actuator. It doesn't just electronically shift the trans, it actually shifts the lever of the trans.
As well.
Yep, so it moves your passageways for the hydraulics so it can grab the correct planetary clutch pack. So it's not just staying on the main clutch pack electronically. So now we're just in drive mode, so it just shifts automatically through the gears, just drives like a normal car.
So you can manually shift if you want, or you can just throw it in drive and let it do its thing.
Or you can hit a button and then you can downshift. So we got vintage air, The EVAP box is up underneath this section of the center console. So we have 2 Switch Pro, their new Switch Pro system with 12 buttons per Switch Pro computer unit. So just because we had so many things that we needed to have switching on this thing. So
yeah, it is dual fuel pump.
Yeah, so we have 2 fuel pumps. Normally we'll have 2 ignitions, but this being coil on plug, we actually can't do that in this setup. So this is all run by the Holley Dominator system. So
okay.
All the PDMs and computers are in the center console here. The fact that we even got 2 cup holders in here is mind blowing to me. I didn't think we were going to be able to fit them in there.
What are these here? Is that headphones?
Yep, those are the jacks for the headset. So you can listen to music, you can talk. They're the Alpha Bass headsets, so they sound super cool.
But then you put this here, so it's not like I've been in plenty of these where it's kind of.
Yeah, it's out of your way. You won't hit it. You don't bump it. You know. Fire extinguisher in here. We have fire extinguishers under the seats, the stick ones that you can pull out and pop open like a flare.
Oh, nice.
But we have a full fire suppression system in this vehicle too. So you can see this handle right here. So if you pull that pin and pull that, yep. We didn't want the cable exposed. We didn't want that to be just ergonomically doesn't look really good. So we made the shark fin looking thing to put the handle in. Now the cable runs through the cage and goes back to the fire bottle. So. And then also, again, out of room, so we put the car-to-car communication and the race radio up here overhead. When you're fully belted in, both passenger and driver can reach it, no problem. This is the push-to-talk for the passenger if they want to talk to another car. So,
oh, wow, cool.
Yeah, so it's kind of cool. And then we have push-to-talk on here, which this button's push-to-talk. Horn.
Horn.
Horn. And then another thing we did on this that most guys don't do on off-roads, but I've done it on a few off-road trucks, just for the fun of it. We have a line lock on this.
Do you really?
Yeah. So you can lock the front tires if you want to assist in your copious burnouts.
Yeah. This is just so good. Not to mention, while my feet are on this floor, your floor is stunning. How beautiful this is.
Yeah.
My eye kept getting pulled over to the floor next to the plate, you know?
Yeah, the access panel here. If you need to pull the transmission or do any servicing, you can actually pull those access panels out. And so even the throttle pedal, the linkage assembly on it, there's a bunch of linkage on the backside because the cable has to come in from the top. It can't come in from the back or from the front. So way back up underneath here, you can see all the linkage right there pulling on the cable.
I just also noticed how the floor here is a flatter panel. That side, you had to indent it to make room for your foot and the accelerator pedal.
Again, the room is an issue. Real estate, it just
so
doesn't come cheap.
I gotta say though, considering how small the cab looks from outside, sitting in here,
it's comfortable
you're a big
in here.
dude sitting next to you in here.
Yeah.
Like I could chill in here and cruise with you.
There's one on the spine, on the front of the hood spine, but there's a little M insignia right here. So that is the gentleman's. I actually wanted to do a family crest, but they didn't have one. So I asked his son, I said, what else could we do that's super cool? And he said, well, he really likes his high school mascot. And so there's a cool story behind it. So I guess the first 2 years of the high school he went to, they had to go to the prison because the school was being constructed and it wasn't done yet. So they went to high school at the prison. Now, I don't know if he was there at the first 2 years, but that's why this mascot came about. So the mascot, they became the Yuma Criminals, which I'm surprised they still, with all this woke BS, I'm surprised they still let it go today, but I love it. I think it's super cool. So that's the Yuma Criminal mascot.
That's funny as hell, dude.
Super cool. And then his grandkids, we were talking to them one day, because like I said, it's a big family and they have a bunch of cool ideas and stuff. And they said, we got to put some mustache symbols somewhere. So you can see on the door popper.
Come on, you.
Yeah, and that's all the Marabraid machine and all this stuff for us, making it,
The other thing I like a lot that you did is keep the window cranks, but don't make me roll it
we
with
have
a
the crank,
cage
but
right
up
here.
Or down is just an electric window. You just move it a little bit up.
All right, so I think next up for us, go put it on a lift. Let's walk the underside and see the chassis.
All right.
More of the suspension. I think that's what's next, you guys. So why don't you walk us through the underside?
Yeah, let's start at the front, probably. It seems like the appropriate. We were talking about suspension. So upper lower control arms are all from Triton Engineering, plus the bulkheads that they go onto, and the differential, which you still can't see because the panels are in the way, but the housing for the differential is the actual bulkhead of the front end. And so you just bolt the diff in the bulkhead that holds the A-arms and everything. So it's kind of cool, crazy piece. But the A-arm's all chromoly, heat treated, super strong stuff, like really, really strong stuff. Obviously, king shocks on this thing. You know, this thing's a little bit heavy, so we got a pretty heavy spring rates on it.
Yeah, I mean, I've noticed the size of your springs, dude.
But all monoball construction, you know, rack and pinion, hydraulic steering. These are 7075 aluminum links that we got here. You know, everything's on a monoball or a Heim joint. So these are overflows for certain things on the engine itself right here. A lot of this overflow stuff we've never had an issue with. Like one of them is AC. This might drip a little bit of water because for the evap box, anything that, you know, the evap box drips a little bit of water sometimes. Power steering, we've never had one do it, but if it ever
just
did,
in case.
Yeah. The stuff that does puke a little bit of fluid when it gets super hot, when you're in the desert being really, really hard on this thing, or in the dunes in a sand wash, all the important stuff that we have had that happen with goes all the way out the back. And I'll show you when we get to the backside how cool that is, like how all that stuff goes. You know.
Cool.
And we have tie down mounts here. Oil filter, obviously, front drive shaft snakes past the oil pan. We had to cut and notch. You could see where we notched the oil pan right here, just so the drive shaft can get past it, front drive shaft. Now, since it's independent front suspension, the front differential doesn't move. It stays solid in that place.
Right.
And so that's how we can get away with running the drive shaft that close, because the drive shaft doesn't move, it just spins.
Right.
So it doesn't have to go up and down like a straight axle front end.
Yeah.
Coil packs, you saw the top side of this thing. We just don't have room up there for coil packs. So
I was wondering
how
when we were looking earlier.
Yeah, let's put it under the skid plate, under the bottom of the engine. Like, so the plug wires just go boop right up to the spark plugs, clear headers really
and
easy.
Like dirt and stuff hitting here, no issue.
No issues. Yeah, and then we have a lot of times when we're wiring these things, we'll use Deutsch connectors or Cannon plugs, but a lot of Deutsch connectors and less Cannon plugs. Like anything passes through a firewall, Cannon plug. Well, on this one, we decided pretty much Cannon plug everything. So even this one disconnect, that undoes the whole coil packs. Now you unbolt that, the whole coil pack assembly comes out. So it's that easy.
Wow.
So it's kind of cool. More aircraft stuff and aerospace stuff, you know.
Yeah.
We borrowed this from Mason Motorsports. They build, you know, the all-wheel drive trophy trucks. You probably heard of the Mason Motorsports guys. I saw this on one of their trucks and figured out kind of in my thoughts how they did it. But it's basically two bearings that are pressed into these machined aluminum pieces, and then they actually bolt together radially, and then also bolts into a mount and holds itself together. So that's how we did the carrier bearing for this two-piece drive shaft for the front, which is kind of cool. So, and then the Atlas transfer case. But here's the actual shift box for the power control solutions. The exhaust system actually has its own area so it keeps heat and everything off of all of this stuff here, keeps heat out of the cabin, keeps it off the body of the truck. So we have all these little tubes that go through here this exhaust is in this tube right here.
Yeah, I can see it.
And the reason why is because when the skids plate's off, there's an entry scoop up here, and then all this is where the air flows. All the air goes up into these two scoops right here.
It's forcing
goes
it
up
up
to the
and
radiator, and the transcooler. So,
so I know one thing we talked about already, but now getting to see it under here, 100% you guys building a chassis for this.
Yeah, this full tube chassis is built for this truck by us.
Yeah.
Every piece.
Yep.
So more tie down hooks. We have an AccuSump. So anytime the oil pressure drops below, I think we have this set at 25 PSI. It pushes 2 quarts of oil in the engine. So these are little petcock drains that we have. You can twist them and you can drain all the coolant from the lowest point. That way, if you have to pull any coolant lines or anything, they're drained of all fluids. They're not
making a big mess. And then all these other
mess.
lines that I'm seeing, is this fuel and brakes? And
so we have fuel. 2 fuel lines, you know, inlet and outlet, you know, for a return. We have the 2 lines for the coolant passageway lines, and then we have transmission cooler lines also running through all this area right here.
God, your plumbing's really beautiful, dude.
Yeah, it's just, you know, one cool thing about Nick is, so Nick worked at a brewery. I mean, we've always done really bitchin' stainless lines and stuff, but Nick just helped us take it to the next level with his experience with making all the piping for all the breweries and stuff. So you can see where the exhaust, you know, runs through here, comes out that chamber and runs through here, exits out the body. Another thing we like to do. So see how this exhaust mount? It's not welded to the pipe. It eventually cracks out every time you weld an exhaust mount like a hanger. So we actually have these saddles that it goes up into, and then we use these stainless clamps to clamp it to the saddle. And that's how you keep it from cracking the exhaust out, because I've seen it 100 times, just cracked exhaust bracket bolt to the chassis, exhaust just flopping and hanging. So,
yeah.
You know, our 60-inch trailing arms that we design and put on most trucks, Got a big giant sway bar, big king shocks in the rear. Our upper links are adjustable also, so we can set pinioning without pulling anything apart, which is kind of nice. Like I said, the Evan Willer diff, and I mentioned earlier the 4-inch diameter 250 wall, chrome moly housing from TubeWorks. And then you can see the transcooler inlets right here, so the fans pull air up. And the other thing is, since this is all our scooping air is going this way, it separates. None of that hot air coming through here hits the transmission coolers. And then, our drive shaft safety loop, a lot of the trophy trucks will have a strap underneath here. We wanted to take it to the next level and put something there.
So that's if you snap it, it ain't coming through the...
Yeah, you don't want it to hit the ground and pogo you. We can get into some really heavy detail, but one thing I mentioned earlier I wanted to show you. So this rear skid plate, these are exits. Well, that's fuel cell breather. And this is an exit, and this is an exit right here. There's a manifold in our fluid. So outside this one, on this side, is transmission and radiator coolant. If any of those overflow, it actually comes out all the way out to the back of the truck, so it doesn't make a mess under the truck. And then on this side, we have the fuel cell. If for any reason it has to puke fuel out of the top of the fuel cell, it comes out this side. So the AccuSump, if we actually have too much pressure in the AccuSump, has to puke any fluid out, dumps all the way out the back. And then we got one other one, Nick. Rear differential. So their vent for our rear diff goes up and goes into a manifold, and it comes out here too. So instead of having just multiple points of stuff coming out, we just manifold it into one thing, and that way, if it ever has to puke, it just shares that exit manifold, which is kind of
it trips me out how your guys' brains work. The stuff that you guys have to think about 2 years before you get to it.
Oh yeah, you're constantly planning ahead for other components that are going to be in the way and have to share areas. So
like that, you have to put. I mean, it just doesn't it kind of fry your brain a little bit? The shit these guys think of.
Yeah, this is why I do camera work now.
Yeah, this is why I go, hey, it's Sean, Autotopia LA, let's do some burnouts.
Like I said a bunch of times, but it's not just me, without my guys' minds too, you know what I mean?
No, I get it.
It's just all of us just collaborating and just bouncing cool ideas off each other.
I totally get it. I don't have that type of
The other detail that we do is, this is a skid plate. It could have a rough edge. We could sand the edge if we want to. No, we went and got a router and routered the edge so it has a nice rounded edge on every hole, just so it has a nice curved transition at the edge of the hole.
All right, so we've walked this whole truck at this point. I know there's
pretty much,
we could go fine really details, but we've really gotten an overall solid, strong sense of what it is. So we should see if it drives a little bit.
Let's go have some fun in this thing.
Yeah, we're gonna go drive.
Yeah.
So you've heard us talk about it. We're really excited about launching our new podcast, and it's live now on the Autotopia LA podcast channel. We've had some great guests already. Looking forward to talking to so many of our friends because, we're pretty plugged in with some amazing folks in the automotive space. So check out Autotopia LA podcast channel, hit the subscribe, hit the notifications so you know when we go live, but it's gonna be every Monday at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I hope you love what we're doing. And thanks for checking it out. Now let's go for a drive. Myself, I feel the smile coming on my face. I'm like, but we're not doing anything.
That's what it's supposed to do, though.
I so love getting to do this, man.
It's supposed to put a smile on your face. What's the point if it doesn't?
Yeah, exactly. To go to this level of time and energy and effort and heartache and all that goes into all of what we do, what you do, all of it. This is why, right here.
This is why.
This is the moment right here. Rob, some things we didn't talk about before that I thought would be cool to touch on.
Yeah.
Are these side views? Is that you guys making them?
Yeah, we made the mirrors. We buy the actual round mirror portion from CarTech, and then we design and build everything else.
Yeah, it looks like a one-off piece. And then the other big one is too, you mentioned it and I wasn't really thinking about it. the wind wings are gone, so you've completely reformed this door.
Yeah, we've converted it into a one-piece window. The hinge goes inside the door from the factory, and it sat under the wind wing, so you didn't have to worry about hitting anything. So we had to redesign that whole upper hinge area right there so that it bolted to the face of the door, you know, on the inside of the door jamb, like a newer car does, so we can get the one-piece window in there.
I can tell you said it's twitchy steering currently.
It's all race car stuff, so.
I love this thing so much, dude.
Yeah, it's very mechanical, all the sounds in this thing are very mechanical.
It really is.
So our driveline guy's gonna get with us tonight after filming. We're gonna pull the drive shaft and get corrected what we've got going on, but I think we got a little bit of play in the slip, even though everything's brand new, because we have a vibration when it unloads, when the suspension droops out. You'll even feel it on the inside.
Okay. Boy, this interior sure came out beautiful, man. Your guy really nails it. Yeah, yeah. That's a proper off-roader's U-turn right
there. You
there.
go. To drive this particular vehicle. I've never been really nervous to drive something, but this is the most expensive vehicle we've ever built, and I do keep that in my mind, you know, like.
I'm sure.
And the client has yet to enjoy it, you know, like.
Yeah, yeah.
But we got to run it through its paces ultimately. We got to know if there's problems before the client does.
God, this thing sounds. It sounds good, dude.
Yeah, it's got some heart.
It sounds nasty. It really doesn't seem like there's much of a delay when you're paddling.
No, it's pretty quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so twitchy. I'm just not 100% used to the steering, but it responds instantly to input. So
is that something that becomes adjustable to where
we could slow it down? We could call
can.
Charlie at Power Steering Solutions. Slow it down. It's the ratio that you would want if it was a rock crawling race car.
They'll be. I love this shit so much.
This thing's nimble, man.
See what you mean, man. Tiny input and it's moving, huh?
Yeah.
Do you like steering to be that fast when you're in an
No, I'd
off-road?
rather slow it down a little bit.
Yeah.
We'll leave it up to the client, but ultimately I think he's going to want us to slow it down.
Yeah, I would think so. So the dual screen is for redundancy, right? So
your passenger can call out temps and things like that.
yeah.
Go ahead and touch, swipe. You can swipe between different screens. Now you're gonna feel this vibration, it's gnarly. This is why we're not gonna do the jump. You'll understand when you feel it. Ah, right there, did you
I
hear
heard it.
Yeah, it was way gnarlier than that when we really go through it. We're just going too slow.
So would you say percentage-wise, as far as things knocking off the list, are you at like 95%?
I think we're at 98 to 99%.
That close.
Yeah, we're close. We're really
So you're
close.
really down to the small fine-tuning
We are,
elements.
yeah. And it just takes some miles to do that, so.
Yeah, and you said so far you have, what, 5 miles or something like that on it prior to this? Gnarly, bro.
crazy. Oh, it won't shift till you let it. That's weird. Okay, cool. I didn't know. That's the first time I ran it out that hard.
And it wouldn't shift?
No, even though I paddle shifted, it's going to let it run out to 6,500 no matter what.
God, I love this shit so much, dude. I think he wants to do another one, it looks like to me. I can't quite tell. But
Are we good for one more?
Are you guys okay? Can you handle one more? Yeah. Everybody's a yeah. Here we go.
Ready?
Got this driveway done. No, nobody's doing that.
Don't do that on my driveway.
We're not making any marks on my driveway.
Yeah, we got over that right quick, didn't we?
Yeah, you painted up quickly. So given that you just put more miles on it on our drive today than it already had on it, how are you feeling?
I feel good. Like, this video was our test. Usually we test beforehand, make sure everything's perfect. We didn't have that opportunity. Things are good. Temps are good. Fuel pressure is good. Oil pressure is good. Voltage is good. Everything feels tight. Drives super nice. Does burnouts on command. Like everything's working really good. Like I said, we got a little drive shaft thing that we got to handle. I think that's almost it. Like it's really kind of down to that. And so I would love to put a couple 100 miles on this thing just to shake it down and make certain that we're not going to have any issues. But we're going to deliver on Friday to the client. And so I just told him, hey, make a list. Anything that's, not operating properly, we'll handle it for you. No problem. So,
And just so any of you wondering, like, why we didn't hammer the desert, why we didn't hit jumps, it's because just what he just said. This thing's getting delivered to the owner on Friday. The owner has not had possession of this vehicle yet. He wants it. You want to deliver it clean, immaculate, perfect, ready for him to drive.
I do.
So that's why we did just nothing but some donuts and a little fun.
Agreed. After 4 years and the build that we've been through with this thing, I would like the client to enjoy it a little bit, and then they're going to hit the desert with it. So you can call it a mall crawler right now if you want to, but it ain't going to be for long. They will hit the desert with this thing, and it's a very, very capable vehicle. So
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that one, man. Thanks for hanging out and watching what we do. And dude, as always, thanks for doing this, man. That was fun, dude.
It sure was. Yeah, always love filming with you guys. You guys are on point. So it's awesome.